Hey folks, MasakoX here. With Raditz being the primary reason for you being here, I would imagine, we need to really give this character some more love in a world where everyone and their space mothers seems to be wanting to down on him. Granted, he was more of a gateway to the next phase of Dragon Ball, but you have to remember, this was Goku's brother, the sibling of the main character. We've got to explore the potential at least a little bit, right? Or in my case, far too much. In any case, in this story, Raditz was the one to go to Earth instead of Goku, for reasons that are best forgotten in the eyes of the tallest Saiyan in this narrative. He had a happy life until Krillin decided it shouldn't be anymore. And thusly, we've got a situation where King Piccolo is around and yet, he hasn't been offed yet. In the last part, you can understand why, but yet you might not want to. You see, the aftermath of Bulma's being slain led to a huge power being awoken from within Raditz. No, it wasn't Super Saiyan or that Ikari power that is unique to Super Broly. No, this was that false Super Saiyan power. I thought that it was a fair compromise that we had in the Slug movie and some of the DBZ filler. Yes, it was also a miscommunication about what Super Saiyan should have been at the time between Toriyama and the makers of the anime, but it exists, so let's roll with it. It's kind of neat. Raditz champion Christmas. This then led to the brothers working together alongside Master Roshi to use their combined brawn to take down King Piccolo as fast as possible. But things got all the more complicated when Krillin got hurled into the mix, tempted to follow through his ire toward Raditz by the king, and then got promptly played. In the end, Raditz did get his revenge against Krillin, in a very gruesome way, admittedly. Yeah, Raditz had just about had enough of Krillin, and he was about to do the same to King Piccolo, he and Kakarot. That is until Kami showed up in his mind, telling the monkey man to stop it, but not stopping it in that way. Listening to the voice, the group are now figuring out what to do, whilst the king scampers away to regroup. Kakarot chooses to undertake the task of learning the Mafuba in Roshi's stead, and Raditz is off to see Korin, and the cat is about to have a whole lot of questions to answer for. Let's resume. Raditz and Kakarot parted ways, with the latter heading back to Kame House to figure out the Mafuba technique, whilst the former took himself to the sacred land of Korin to meet up with the cat and demand some kind of explanation as to who that voice belonged to. When the Saiyan got there, he could sense that King Piccolo hadn't yet fully recovered from his duel, and they maybe had a little more time than he had previously thought. With his newfound gains since the last time he had been here, Raditz flew up the side of the tower, and within a couple of minutes, he arrived at Korin's base, and the cat was very much astounded to see Raditz looking rather fresh. However, Raditz wasn't pleased to see him. "There's up, cat! What's going on here?" Korin tried to be calm in this situation, but no matter what platitudes he tried to throw in Raditz's general direction, the Saiyan really didn't want to know, and instead only wanted to know and discover the true reason as to why the voice told him to let King Piccolo go and to come here. Korin couldn't hold it back any longer. The time for small talk had passed. "All right, my boy. I can sense my niceties aren't welcome at the moment. That voice you heard came from God." "God?" "Yeah, my boss." He pointed upward. "That was Kami talking. You see, he and King Piccolo are connected, you could say." Connected? What is this nonsense?" "Why don't you go ask him yourself?" Korin looked seriously at him. "I can't really offer much in terms of new tricks, but yeah, Kami could." Without a further moment's hesitation, Raditz jumped off the tower and flew upwards, towards a rather strange looking dot in the sky. He had seen it before, but never really understood what it was until now. But he didn't want to waste a single moment. Meanwhile, when the duo had gotten to Kame House, Roshi set about showing Kakarot the basics of the Mafuba technique. Roshi could tell that Kakarot's fortitude was a lot greater than his, even at this young age. He had a lot of hope that the boy could survive this technique, and was very grateful that he wouldn't have to do it himself. Should he be grateful though? I mean, it seemed awfully selfish in a way, but they didn't have much time to ponder over the ramifications and justifications of this act. They just had to act. Kakarot felt determined to master this as quickly as possible. He wanted to help his big brother and his newfound friends, as well as prove to Roshi that he could learn just as quickly as his brother could. he still lamented losing to him in the tournament recently, despite being, most likely, the stronger of the two, in terms of brute strength. It had become clear, though, that it was Raditz's experience that had helped him out, and he won out, proving to his younger brother that it's not always about the size of your power that's important, it's how you use it that proves crucial in a battle. With that resolve, Kakarot was able to slowly get to grips with the Mothaba technique. It still took him hours though, but even then, Roshi was astounded to see this level of progress with such a move that took him years to master. Good thing they're on our side. Well, Roshi, you're very lucky in this timeline. At least for now. Meanwhile, Tambourine and his father had reunited and had begun to find the Dragon Balls thanks to Tambourine taking the Dragon Radar earlier from the now departed Krillin. And by the way, nobody knows who has the radar at this point. And King Piccolo was still hurting from the beatdown from Raditz and had to re-evaluate his wish on the dragon. My boy, it has become clear to me that even if I were to wish my youth back, that might not be enough. It seems like my life is very much hanging by a thread. That's it! Who said your life had to end, father? What do you mean, boy? Don't be cryptic at a time like this! Tambourine then posed the idea of instead wishing for his youth back right now, he could perhaps wish for immortality. That way, no matter what Raditz did to him, he'd never die. You could really make him suffer, tire him out, and then just waste him at your leisure. What about that runt of a brother? Same goes for him. No matter who gets in your way from now on, you just have to wait out the clock. Piccolo wasn't sure whether or not this was a just idea or a moral one, but quite frankly, things had changed and they had to make this work. So with that, Piccolo's wish changed. But would he still get to the Dragon Balls in time? It seemed quite likely. Without the Dragon Radar in the Dragon Team's hands, our heirs have to guess where they were in finding them, Piccolo and Tambourine. It helped the former tremendously having his son around to help. Raditz arrived at Kami's lookout and immediately locked eyes with Mr. Popo. The two of them stared each other down before Kami came out, sparing Raditz a sparring session with the genie. Quite frankly, there was no time for that. And with Kami's action, the Guardian felt it wasn't fair to make Raditz wait any longer anyway. Besides, he already proved himself worthy of his audience thanks to all the things he had done prior to that, as well as actively trying to stop an evil force such as King Piccolo, and he would have succeeded. Welcome, Raditz. I thank you for your time. Raditz wasn't nearly as courteous with the old man, basically God, but something dawned on him. Something he wasn't quite sure about with King Piccolo, but it was in the back of his mind though. That king looked so different to what he remembered of this race, but now with this Kami person, it was a lot more obvious, it clicked. This person was one of those Namekians. Interesting. He recalled these from one of his studies, when he was destined to be a toady to Prince Vegeta, but he had never met one before. Well, before King Piccolo and this one. That's odd. What's a Namekian doing ruling over Earth? He muttered to himself. But he forgot to remember that Namekians have sensitive hearing, and Kami queried what a Namekian was. Was this some kind of insult? Don't you know? You're a Namekian! Kami looked shocked. Upon hearing this term, something deep within him had been unlocked. I'm a Namekian. It all makes sense now. I knew something was different between myself and the beings of Earth. It's all coming back to me now. Raditz cut him off by wanting to know the score with him having to let Piccolo go. Really, he didn't care about the fact that God was having an existential crisis in front of him. And this is where Kami explains about his tie to King Piccolo. If the king were to be killed, Kami would die too, and thus the Dragon Balls would no longer exist. Essentially, it boiled down to him having a bit of a tit-for-tat and, they split a couple of centuries ago. Nothing big. Now that he had connected the dots, Raditz then associated the Dragon Balls with these slug people. It started to make sense. It had been so long since he'd thought about aliens other than Saiyans, because he'd been on Earth, that this revelation was quite the jaw-dropper. Why hadn't he cottoned on before now? As much as I appreciate this discovery, Raditz, I wish to be upfront with you about this. I cannot ultimately force you not to kill Piccolo, but I hope that with you knowing the facts, that you would at least reconsider it. And if we get out of this in one piece, I wish to give you something in return. And what's that? Training. Granted, I'm not sure what I can offer you, but
You're already very powerful, and whatever I can do, I shall offer to you.
Raditz was curious about this. Despite this old man being rather foolish and stopping him from doing what he had wanted to do, and do so easily, getting to train with the deity of Earth, that was a rather enticing prospect.
Okay, fine, but only if Kakarot receives the same.
Kami tried to push back, but Popo shook his head. True, Kami wasn't in a position to demand things right now, and thusly, he acquiesced. With that, Raditz left and headed for Kame House to check on Kakarot's progression. However, when Raditz got there, the sky turned black. Roshi, Raditz, and Kakarot were horrified. How? How had they found them so quickly? They didn't have a Dragon Radar. Then it hit Raditz.
Oh no, the Dragon Radar. Bulma was the last that had it, and Krillin killed her, and then... That lowlife. Even in death, he finds a way of screwing me over! Kakarot, we've got to go!
But Raditz, I'm not sure if I got this down.
Time's up, brother! Get what you need, and let's get moving!
Kakarot grabbed a jar and a talisman that Roshi had, and Raditz told him to hop on, and they flew at breakneck speed. Kakarot was astounded at how Raditz could suddenly fly. Raditz then explained that the whole mess after fighting Krillin and that weird transformation that he had felt changed him somehow. He felt different, like it unlocked some innate Saiyan traits.
Perhaps you too could fly one day, Kakarot. But let's get this over with so that we may live to see another day.
By the time they arrived at Piccolo's aura, the dragon had vanished. Not just gone, but destroyed. Piccolo had evaporated them in a fit of pique, much to Tamborine's chagrin, because he didn't want anyone else to use him against him because he's a coward. Kakarot had jumped off before Raditz and Piccolo locked eyes to get ready. He had to get close at the last second before Raditz dealt the final blow. However, that proved to be difficult, as Raditz found out very quickly. He didn't hang around, obviously. He dealt powerful blow after blow, which should have wasted the king in seconds. But no matter what Raditz did, the king just kept coming back. He was regaining limbs or healing burned flesh. He was now truly unstoppable, despite being much weaker than the Saiyan. And Piccolo laughed at Raditz's frustration.
Oh dear. Looks like brute force might not win out, my boy. You sure you want to keep trying?
No matter what, said Raditz through gritted teeth. Tamborine watched this with the greatest of pride. His father had outsmarted those filthy interlopers. For minutes, Raditz kept hurling everything that he had at the old man, and it was doing nothing. But then, it hit him. This could be the thing that could help him claw back something. And it didn't involve fists. It involved words. What he told Kami. He had to try as he was starting to get tired now. He didn't know how long he could keep going.
So, you think you're all that, huh? The king of the demons?
Piccolo nodded and wondered whether the fatigue had started to rattle his brain. Raditz smirked.
Shame. I've got news for you, pal. You ain't nothing special. What is this? Cease this drivel and just give in to the inevitable. I will never bow down to you, Slugman.
Slugman?
What? Yeah, you're no demon. You're just an old, wrinkly alien. Nothing special. A Namekian. I don't care what you wished for. In the end, you're just an overgrown mollusk. One that I will ultimately tread under my boot.
Piccolo then started to have the same crisis that Kami had. But unlike the Guardian, this revelation was far more harrowing for the Demon King. Piccolo kept muttering to himself. Even when Raditz resumed his beatdown, Tamborine was getting a little nervous. This wasn't right. Whatever that boy had said had clearly rattled his father. He tried to comfort him, but King Piccolo just battered Tamborine away. This was Kakarot's time to strike. With his speed to hand, Kakarot got in range, his target far too distracted to notice, and opened the jar and placed the talisman. "Nafuba!" shouted Kakarot, and immediately Piccolo knew the sensation. He could feel himself being dragged into the jar. However, his resistance to it was far less intense than it should have been. He had been broken, his identity completely compromised. He knew it wasn't a lie either. It was all true. It felt true. He had been sideswiped and now he was back in a godforsaken prison. Piccolo had been caught. Kakarot felt extremely tired, no condition to fight of course, but he'd done it. Now Tamborine was left. and Raditz had just enough fight left in him to waste him, and it was done. But the Dragon Balls were still gone. For the moment. When the brothers had recovered, they made their way back to Kami's lookout, and Raditz introduced his younger brother to the Guardian, and Kami vowed to make another set of Dragon Balls soon, now that Piccolo had been captured.
I shall keep him safe, locked away in the depths of this palace. He will not be let out again. I shall make sure of it. Thank you, my friends, and I apologize this couldn't have been rectified sooner. I will make it up to you.
Yes, in good time, Kami. Just make those balls so that we can bring back those slain by that monster and his flunkies.
Kami nodded, and within a few days he had done just that. And with this reset timer, Raditz made the wish to bring back all those that had been felled by Piccolo and his goonies. Immediately, Bulma woke up, back at Capsule Corp. She was surprised to be in her bed. The last thing she remembered, she was on Papaya Island and felt her head really hurt. Weird. Minutes later, her parents came in and hugged her tightly. They then told her she had been killed, but they held hope that the Dragon Balls could bring her back. But it was still a little macabre that they had put her in a bed. But that thought was quickly dispelled when Raditz barged through the door and hugged Bulma with everything that he had.
Bulma, I'm so sorry. I'll never let you out of my sight again.
He wept whilst Bulma comforted him.
You don't need to be so dramatic, Raditz. It doesn't suit you. I'll be fine.
It didn't matter though. She was still very happy to see him, and the pair of them embraced once more. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you liked the story where Raditz was a better person, you can also check out this one, where Raditz was a do-gooder in Gine's timeline, where she went to Earth with Goku and grew up with him. And as always, I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!